More things to highlight. One of them is one of the people who has worked with the SKA and trying to understand how to manage this density out here is Dave Ballot. And Dave is here. He's the owner and principal in the Wells Fargo hotel site. And he's a nice guy. I like him. If you want to say anything, Dave, you're more than welcome to.
Sure.
Why don't you use the microphone so the dozen or so people we have online can hear you?
You can walk. Oh, stand up, thanks. I really appreciate it. I've actually been a member of SKA for a few years now. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, and now we can.
All right, my apologies. My name's Dave Ballot. I've been a resident of Sarasota for about 25 years. I originally lived on Siesta, and then the wife and I had 2 kids and then 4 kids and realized there was too much traffic, so we moved off the island. We're now back on the island. I live at 61 Beach Road. And by the way, I think Sergeant Smith does a great job. I'm out there where there's a lot of crazies, and he's very diplomatic. He's very professional. Sheriff Hoffman and Sergeant Smith do a great job. I just want to let you know, as somebody who's firsthand sees a lot of the crazies. I am the person behind the Wells Fargo property. What you may not know is I co-own the only hotel on Siesta Key currently with the old Best Western with Mike Holderness, Siesta Key Beach Resort and Suites. We bought that in 2017, and for any of you that have gone by, we've been slowly and steadily rehabbing it and putting a lot of money back into it and trying to make it more appropriate for the village, more safer for our guests, and just more enjoyable. I donated to the Siesta Key Coalition when I bought the property at Wells Fargo. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I had the Zoom Around golf cart business. I started that a couple years ago just because I saw the need for the hotel guests to get around, and I thought it'd be a fun business. So I bought the Wells Fargo to use it for Zoom Around. I donated because I didn't agree with the extreme density, the high density hotels. And Mark Spiegel, Bob, Catherine, and I have had probably, I don't know, 30, 40 discussions throughout the last couple of years because I side with Dr. Wallace. I'm against high density hotels. When I heard Mark Spiegel originally state that he would be okay if there was a 40 or 52 room, something, 40 or 50 per acre instead of 170 rooms per acre, that's where I came up with the idea to try to come up with a hotel that was appropriate. And just to let you know, I understand Siesta Key Overlay District is to keep with the character of the Key. The only hotel is the one that I co-own that was built in the 60s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. Coincidentally, that's 52 rooms an acre. So that's where I came up with the 52 rooms an acre, trying to come up with something. Now my property is a little bit unique because it's an island between 2 continents. It's the only commercial general property that's not in the village and not in the South Bridge District, and it has a 35-mile-an-hour zone. When I went through, the county did not require a traffic study, but I went and had a traffic study done. Coincidentally, the company that I hired does not work with the Benderson Group, and turned down, I think, 1, if not 2 of the other 2 hotels because they didn't agree with the traffic issue. But signed my project up because I said I'd like to add additional parking. If you watch any of the commission meetings when I was up, he defined it as parking, as trolls, parking trolls. I grew up in New Jersey. I lived in a shore community. My first job was in Seaside Heights on the shore, and there was constant traffic getting across the bridge and getting to work as a short order cook and working the wheels. But the traffic was always the people that would go slowly driving around looking for parking spaces. I've since leased out the parking lot at the Wells Fargo, and what I can tell you is the parking is less when the churches rent out the parking, and when I rent out the parking and the people just park their cars and stop and walk 5 minutes to the beach. The parking is, the traffic is less. It's still, it's still heavy traffic in March and April, and also in July, a little bit in June if there's good weather, as a Memorial Day. But it's decreased. Part of my project was to add parking back. When I put my hotel up, I didn't I actually went through 7 different plans because in speaking with multiple people, they recommend having a place like this where we could have meetings. So we added a business conference room. And then when I talked to a lot of people, they recommended having a place where there could be sweet 16s and weddings and bar mitzvahs and quinceañeras. So we had a room where there's 100 room, 100, similar to this in the hotel. They recommended there was nowhere to eat. And I know that as a resident, if I don't get reservations, I can't go out to eat. But we should have a place to eat, for the guests, especially because I'm not in the village. So we added a restaurant, and I don't know restaurants. I know hotels. I'm a cell phone guy. I'm now a golf cart guy. I'm just a businessman. So I added enough parking to make sure that we had adequate parking, because that's the biggest problem on the Key, no parking. I am appalled by what Benderson is doing. Like, the developers are upset with me because I have the largest undeveloped land on Siesta Key, and if they can do 170 rooms or 200 rooms on 1 acre, imagine what I can do on 2.14 acres. I'm going in, my plan was 110 to 112. Originally, it was actually a 100-room hotel, but the county wouldn't allow me to remove the tree to keep the building lower. So I had to move the building back. And in order to move the building back and get over 100 rooms, I had to add an extra floor, which made it 110 or 112 rooms. I'm stuck with that now. The county they're going to be upset at me for saying this, but stopped me along the way. I knew, unfortunately, that the Benderson group was involved back in April. I felt like I was crying wolf. I think I told Bob and Catherine, because they weren't around. I was told by somebody who's politically connected, I won't mention their name, that walked out and said, whether this is true or not, this is what was told to me, that your project is getting stopped in site and development. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. It's moving along. The county told me when I didn't get sued, I'd have to move it along. I had 2 years to get it out of the ground. And sure enough, I was told that it was stopped because the big developers didn't want it to move forward because I set the bar too low at 52 rooms an acre. 4 days later, I found out to be true. So my plan was stopped in site and development because the county didn't feel comfortable with my project moving forward. Whether or not that's true or not, it's what happened. I'm following the county, doing what I'm supposed to do. But I find myself in an awkward situation because now unlimited density. Listen, I'm going to tell you something that I probably shouldn't say openly, but I had in conversations with a large developer, we'll just leave the name so I don't get sued. And that developer told me point blank, you need to get in line because we have 4 out of the 5 votes. We don't need Commissioner Smith. I told him point blank, I've got 2 years to get my project out of the ground. I expect a lawsuit against the project, but I didn't agree with unlimited density. And as such, I'm going to keep moving forward. I felt 52 rooms an acre was appropriate. It was appropriate for the only hotel, like I said, and built in the 50s, 60s, 70s. Dr. Wallace?
What I don't, there's a couple things. In the same sense that the litigation that we have going right now for Siesta Promenade, if you get approval to do that hotel as it stands, it's going to be in violation of the Constitution of this key.
Currently, right now, you mean if they go forward with?
Yeah. So my advice, my advice is to watch what goes on in terms of their ability to change the comprehensive plan. Okay, if we get to the election, right, and we get a certain player who's running, they're not going to get a supermajority, and the comprehensive plan is not going to get changed. And I'm not an integral part of that process, but I'm tracking. Look, we've never met before.
No, we haven't.
I respect everything you've said, and I've been told by Bob and other people you're a great guy, and I've never had any reason to doubt it. And the way you're coming on this meeting, I'm just trying to give you business advice, okay? My business advice is watch what's going on with this change in the comprehensive plan. It's going to be an all-out war. There'll be lots of ways legally to get us to November, and then we'll be on an election. But And the truth of the matter is, and I think you would agree with this, we need a model of this key to really understand, for example, the impact of your project on a very key access. And that brings me to the other thing I wanted to say to you as a friend, okay, as a friend to me. The other thing I'm really intense about. We stopped the hotels here and we're doing the content on the mainland. Everything's they're done. They can't go forward until they change the comprehensive plan. And so that process. Sticking point is critical. Obviously, it's critical, right? We need to stop that light at Avenue B and C. We got to stop anything serious going on. And as long as we don't get our constitution changed, they can't do shit on either one of the access roads legally, right? That's what it basically says. What's driving me crazy, and it affects your property, is, you know what I'm going to say, the roundabout. That roundabout is going to be a disaster.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't done personally a whole lot of traffic study in many years. I know a lot about modeling. I put together the team that's ready to go to do this deal. What I can tell you is anybody that knows anything about roundabouts knows, and for example, I summer in Wisconsin, roundabouts all over the place. Low traffic, and everybody's been there a million times. Work great, you can get rid of the lights. But if you're in a situation with high volume with people that have never been on that roundabout before, it's a disaster. So putting that roundabout in there, in place of that T intersection, works just fine, thank you, right? The only place that gets stopped is the person that's coming south on midnight pass, wanting to turn left and continue to go south, right? That person stops. Everybody else free flow. Anyway, but what I'm worried about, and I mean this, honestly, I mean this to you, that damn thing is going to adversely affect what you can do on your property, because it's going to make a mess out of that corner. It's huge. You need to know exactly what it's doing, and have it modeled out. And the team that I have, maybe I can talk them into just doing it. Right?
Well, yeah, what I'll say is this: I grew up in New Jersey, and we had nothing but roundabouts. And roundabouts, to me, work very good if you know how to use them. Most people here do not, unfortunately. But they don't work good when there's one directional traffic. So when there's one directional traffic, it stops the roundabout literally, and nobody can get in. When it's two or three directions and everybody's going in, and you know how to traverse, then they work very well. I don't know how it's going to be over there. I think generally during off season, I think it's going to be okay. But I think when there's one directional traffic, it's going to be an extreme problem. The concern that I would say the concern, I make my money not as a developer. I'm a business operator. I have cell phone stores. So I have Verizon stores. My brother and I started a business with my dad 26 years ago. That's where I make my money. So I never build my hotel. I'm okay. That's not what I do.
What I would recommend to you is you have a fantastic asset there, right? That property is a fantastic asset. Let's get this key under control, right?
Oh, yeah.
And have a model that tells us what our traffic problems are really going to be, and how that property could be used to the maximum benefit of Siesta Key and you.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
it's got to use it to explore your options.
Yeah. As an owner, here's the thing that I'll say. As an owner of the only hotel on Siesta, I hear a lot of people talk about traffic, but I can tell you firsthand what the traffic is that I see. So what I did, and I discussed this with Bob and Catherine, is we charged for a while. Now it's part of our room, but we charge. And what I can tell you is when I first bought the hotel, before there was Uber and Lyft, 85%, 90% of the people brought cars. What I can tell you now is only about 50% of the people bring cars. And how do I know? Because I charge for them. What I can also tell you is it's an inverse relationship to traffic. So when you're checking into a hotel, you're checking in at the earliest, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. So while you're driving onto the key, everybody who's there during the busy season, going to the beach, is driving home. When you're checking out at 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, you're leaving the key when everybody's coming in. When I look at Davidson Plaza on Siesta, which is, unfortunately, Mr. Davidson, I hear, is not doing well. But I've spoken to his son, and they're going to be putting a new roof on the building. But the traffic there at a retail location is extremely more intense, the in and out and the in and out and the in and out, and people going to the restaurant. So when I looked at my property originally at 2.1 acres, which is roughly Davidson Plaza, and if I put a retail center with a parking garage without getting any special exception, just to go there and put in a permit and build, I felt that there was going to be significantly more traffic with a retail center, with a parking garage, with restaurants and bars and what have you. So knowing that I have the hotel, knowing that when people come to Siesta, the only time they leave, the average stay at our hotel is 5 days during season, which is the problem time. Off season, it's 2 nights. People come for the weekend, and that's why I think that Siesta would benefit from a true transient accommodation hotel. But what I can tell you is when they come, the only time they leave is when they're going to Moat Marine, they're going to Selby Gardens, when they're going out for the day. Nobody leaves from the village to go to the Southbridge district and drives their car because they can't get a parking space. So from a true use standpoint, I always felt that a hotel was a lower use than a restaurant, than a bar, than just a place to park. So it's kind of the reason why I chose hotel, and also because I knew the business and I knew that doubling what I currently have wouldn't drive that much traffic. I'm okay if the hotel, I'm sorry, Bob, am I taking too much time?
Yes.
Okay, well, let me tell you why I'm here then. I'm happy to talk to anybody. I've spoken to Eileen, I've spoken to her husband, I've spoken to many people here. I'm happy to speak to anybody about the hotel. I'm here actually, I don't like what's going on. I'm not a political person, but I'm not happy with what's going on with the commission. I've met Neil Rainford. He's a nice young man. I have nothing against Neil. Tom Knight is a friend of mine. I met him when he was running for sheriff. He's only one of 2 politicians I've ever supported in Sarasota. I've supported him multiple times. He's running for not our district, but the Venice District 3 Commissioner. And what I can tell you is this, and I'll just make it as simple as I can. When Tom was running 3 times for sheriff, the big developers, the land use attorneys, the builders, the contractors, they all supported Tom Knight for the sheriff. Why? Because he had honesty, he had integrity, and he's going to put the citizens of Sarasota County ahead of all else. Guess what? He's now running for county commissioner. Not one of them wrote him a check. Why? Because he's got honesty, integrity, and he's put the citizens of Sarasota County first. Yeah, and not to mention, he's, I think from a leadership standpoint, I sit on a board. My company has 1,500 locations. I know what it's like to run a big organization. I think he's got that experience. But he's a friend of mine, and as such, I told him that I would have a fundraiser. I know he supports Siesta Key. I know he will support Siesta Key because he understands 2 things. One, A, it's not right, and B, if they can do what they're doing to some of the most densely populated land on Siesta Key, imagine what's next. Venice, Minnesota, Sarasota General. So I am having a fundraiser at the Big Tiki Lounge on January 17th. I'll get more information out. And I'd invite, whether you're Democratic, Republican, like myself, an independent, I'd invite anybody there. I think he's a great guy. I'd listen to him. And I think he will help support Commissioner Smith as it relates to.
Whose seat? Does he have a law degree? Do I remember that correctly?
No, Sheriff Hoffman does.
Oh, that's on there.
Yep, Sheriff Hoffman does. Yeah, he's got a law degree. And I think the world of Sheriff Hoffman as well. Eileen, I'm sorry.
I just asked you whose seat he would take.
Oh, he's running for the same seat as Neil. And I told Neil, and I met with Neil, and we may have different political
That's
views.
Nancy Dietrich's old seat.
Yes,
right?
Nancy Dietrich's seat. When Tom told me personally as a friend that he was going to be running for Sarasota, I was impressed with him as a sheriff, and I told him, this is 2 years ago when he told me he was going to plan on taking Nancy Dietrich's seat, that I would support him. And I never saw myself coming out in public. That's not my way. But after seeing what I saw at the commission multiple times, I was a little bit disappointed, to say the least. And I'm hoping to hopefully bring some change, because I know at the very least, and maybe Neil's doing what he believes is right, and he believes in it, and I respect that. I don't agree with it, and we're going to agree to disagree. But I think Tom's going to do a good job. I hope he will. He did as a sheriff, so I think he'll put the citizens of Sarasota, and he's already gone on the record to say, I mean, Bob, you told me, what did he say regarding Siesta Key?
You can't vote for me, but I'll vote for you.
Yes. So that's it. I apologize for taking up so much time. I'll be here if anybody would like to talk to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, just to remind everybody, we're a 501c4, so we can't take political positions, okay? But I think people ought to hear what our members have to say. And so thank you very much, Dave and Jim, thank you. I actually have one last thing to say. It's a heads up. There's going to be yet another neighborhood workshop put on by the county at an unannounced date, but they have until February to approve changing the county flood maps that FEMA has just studied for 10 years. And what I've heard is there's some big changes coming. You know, right now, you talk about you have to build 19.4 above sea level, which is mostly, you know, like 9 or 10 feet above the grades around here. FEMA's gonna lower that 4 feet.
Is it you then?
Well, I guess they're the government, they can do what they want, right? So apparently they've done studies, and I have no idea what that'll mean, other than it sure is different than storm surge studies and global warming, whether you believe in that or not. And also, I don't know how it'll affect our insurance, because it seems like maybe if I'm not in an FE zone anymore at 11 feet above sea level, that maybe my flood insurance will go down and help the fact that it's tripled in the last 5 years. So I don't know what's going to happen, but we'll try to give you a heads up. I doubt between now and New Year's that the county will attempt to do that, but who knows? They're the county. So, but keep your eyes and ears open. They'll probably have some public service announcements and postcards to people, but it's a county-wide change.
Is there a session set up?
No.
Public session?
No.
They are gonna have workshops.
They're gonna have neighborhood workshops where they'll come either on Zoom or to hear, or maybe both. But the county approved, I think they have to be done by the end of February, changing their own internal regulations about flood zones and stuff like that, evacuation zones. So who knows what, they've been, I think they sent some things to Catherine, and we can put them on the website if you'd like to see them. But we just need to be careful and listen to what they have to say.
Bob, is the end result of this that it makes Sarasota, or Siesta Key, appear to be a less dangerous place to live?
Don't know. I don't know.
Does it?
Yeah, I guess it would.
Yeah. Well,
There's not as many people in the FE and zone,
do you think the developers will like that?
probably.
Yeah, so do I.
Here's another fellow.
Yes, sir.
I just have a question, it's another subject. There's construction on Midnight Pass Road now, where they got the road blocked off half and half. How long is that gonna continue, and what are they doing?
No, they haven't bothered to tell us yet, and I guess I just noticed it a couple of days ago and haven't called them yet, but I do know that they're doing some work on the sidewalk, and they had some problems with some of the asphalt that was put down that had inadequate strength, and they replaced all of it out here.
Twice.
And so I don't know whether there's a problem down there or not, but I don't think it's gonna be very long.
Mess when-
Yeah, but the next thing that's coming is this roundabout. And that roundabout's gonna be over a year in construction.
Yeah,
And
the,
the highlight of it is gonna happen in the tourist season.
the county has proposed to build that roundabout, and they got funding from the state as part of the road swap agreement, to where the county took over these roads and the state agreed to take over River Road to help that area. My understanding is they were going to postpone the construction on the roundabout from starting after the first year until May of next year. So it's not exactly in the tourist season, but that it's gonna go on for a year,
So the-
1 year.
Which means it overlaps the tourist season.
Yeah, and at least they already, a couple of years ago, replaced some of the water pipes and the utilities in there, but then they've acquired from Gulf to Bay some of the right-of-way in their property there by the tennis courts to build the part of the roundabout. So it's, as you remember, we opposed that strongly, and we took a survey, and the survey said 1/3 of the people wanted to leave it like it is. The 1/3 of the people liked the T intersection with some enhancements for
Bikes.
Uh,
Pedestrian.
plants. And 1/3 of the people wanted a roundabout. And the county interpreted that as only 1/3 of the people wanted to leave it like it is, and 2/3 wanted a change. And therefore, they were going to put in a roundabout. And I know that because Siesta Key did the survey. And I would thought it was, well, I'm not happy about that either, but I'm,
Okay, one last question. What about the sand on Turtle Beach? Has that been refilled yet with that, all those trucks that were gonna dump sand? Has that been done or?
it was done.
Okay.
And then a month later, the hurricane came and washed it all away.
Thank goodness it
Well,
was
It's
there.
not all away. Some of
Well,
it is on
yeah.
Blind Pass where I used to live. just went down there yesterday.
Yeah.
It's
So,
unbelievable.
I
how
think-
much of that sand is up on the main,
Yeah.
Really?
About half to 2/3 of the sand got washed away. It's better than it was, but,
But they're not gonna have a bunch of trucks refilling that as far as you know right now?
no, there's no money yet, but they might file another FEMA claim.
Yep,
And, yes,
Bob, what's going to happen to the Davidson property now that he's closed his pharmacy?
I don't know.
Doesn't he own that whole
They won't
thing?
really say.
And they've moved the farmer's market, and it almost makes it look like maybe that's where they want to put another one of these hotels.
I guess it could be. There is remember where the doctor's offices used to be? Kind of on the southwest side of Davidson's there, to the left. Kind of back where it jogs back to Birkenstock. I understand that's going to be a Tommy Bahamas outlet
They leased it to
store.
Walgreens.
Clothing,
Yeah.
not a restaurant.
They've leased it. to
Clothing, I think.
Walgreens.
Yeah, and they've transferred all of their prescriptions to Walgreens, but I don't know whether they're gonna put a Walgreens in there. I've heard just today that they're gonna replace the roof, and so I don't know what's gonna happen there.
Now, Walgreens took over all the prescriptions, so
Yes.
they didn't have to hire any.
Right, right.
Who gives you the prescription?
Pharmacists.
Pharmacists,
Yeah.
and they're gonna remain, in the south, they're gonna remain a convenience store.
Right.
You mean what?
A convenience store. That's from.
The post office still there?
Mr. Davis
No,
himself.
no post office.
No, there'll still
Well,
be
we have
post
the
office in the
post
south,
office on the
but no
south end.
PO box.
There's 8 boxes on the south
There's
end
only 8 boxes there
Nope.
for the
I was
businesses.
in it yesterday and
that
mailed,
work.
what?
8 that work is what Davidson's told us. The other ones are broken, and the ones in Davidson's have been closed since October the 31st, here in the North Village.
Well, in the South Village, there's still a guy working behind the desk taking.
Yeah, they
mail.
sell stamps
Yeah.
and things like that there.
Now they take mail,
Yeah, and they have 8 post office boxes.
yeah.
I wish I could tell you more. They were pretty secretive of it.
Suspicious.
They hung a sign up there in the middle of October and said, 2 weeks, go over to the post office. And so our Siesta Key Association's post office box fee went from $100 a year to $250 a year. And I asked the guy at the post office what happened. He said, it's inflation. At least he didn't say Binomics. Yeah, anybody else? Thanks for coming tonight, and have a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, and a good New Year's.